Hey y'all, it's On here, and as you may have known, I did break the news. I am pregnant, and this is my 0 to 12 week or first trimester recap. If you're interested in seeing what my experience is being pregnant during COVID, keep on watching. If you haven't watched our baby announcement video, remember to click here somewhere. I'll throw in a card so that you can see that and see where our journey has sort of taken us to this point in time. So what most women don't know is in the period between like your period and ovulation, if you do end up getting pregnant, they do count those weeks as pregnant weeks, even though technically you aren't pregnant. So for my 0 to 4 weeks, I'm gonna do physical changes and then emotional changes. For my physical changes, nothing was really different. I got a little bit of bloating, so you kind of feel a little bit more full when you eat. But again, for those first 4 weeks, your body is starting to do a little bit of a shift and a little bit of a change, but nothing crazy. In terms of emotional changes, I think I was really caught up in the fact that this might take a while, because I think there's increasing amount of dialogue around folks who are facing infertility issues or are just having a harder time trying to conceive. And so I thought that we might have to wait a few cycles to conceive, but we are one of the lucky ones, I guess, and it only took 1 cycle. I think another thing in the first few weeks, as like we found out that we were pregnant, it didn't really click into me yet, so I ended up testing a lot. And I had one of those cheapy brands, Amazon like bulk packs of pregnancy tests, and I tested I think at least 5 or 6 times in the first 4 weeks of finding out that I'm pregnant. And so it was just cool to see that positive line every time, because you kind of don't believe it, but then you see that positive line and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's real, it's happening. And then the next 2 weeks after that, so 5 to 7 weeks, the physical changes that I experienced was a lot of breast soreness. So obviously, as your body is gearing up for baby, you are growing in all the places. Your blood volume kind of up, so I think you like double the amount of blood that you have in your body. And so a lot of breast tenderness. TMI, this is like a completely transparent, I think, video, but my nipples, so areolas, got very, very itchy, and it was just like so sensitive, and you didn't want any fabric touching it. So I was just wearing a lot of loose clothes, and yeah, you just are getting a little bit more uncomfortable as the days go on. I definitely got more bloated looking and feeling, and so everything that I ate, it just kind of felt like my belly was just like expanding, and I was like, this seems like it's too early for such like a pooch. But after reading some more forums and on Reddit, and there's so many good support groups on Reddit that just informed a lot of the moms in there that were asking questions about this, that it's most likely bloat, and that your stomach will eventually kind of like do away with the bloat, and then like a real bump would occur. Another physical change that I experienced was hunger pains that went from like 0 to 100. And I'm usually a quite hangry person, but I'm not like it doesn't speed up as fast. But when you're pregnant, there's something in your brain that just clicks and just goes, oh, I think you're hungry. And then it's like, if you don't eat like in the next 10 minutes, you're gonna die. Like, you just need to get something in your body. Like it's like alarms going off in your head, and it's the weirdest like physiological symptom, but that's what happens. And so I got a lot of that. And in terms of morning sickness, I am very lucky. I never got sick, like I never vomited. I did get pangs of nausea, so like waves of nausea that was sort of passed when I stayed hungry too long. And I mean, by no means was I starving myself, but it was just in my schedule where I would work out, then I would get ready for the day, and then I would come down and like make lunch, breakfast. And so it was in that time of waiting that my brain was just like, no, like you're gonna eat before, like you need to eat now. And so that was, I think, the only nauseousness I felt, and that was the extent of it. It was just like kind of passing feelings, but never made me heave or anything like that. In terms of emotional changes at 5 to 7 weeks, I think this is where I notice more of the hormonal mood swings. So a lot of the mornings I would wake up inexplicably mad. Like, I don't know about everyone else, but when I get mad, like, I know how I feel. Like, my body, I know how that response is, and it's like a heavy feeling in my chest, and my body is just kind of heavy. And I know that anything that anyone says that day would probably tick me off, and I think this is working from home has been for the best, because there are so many times I wanted to snap. Like, it's just like a reaction, right? And you know, over Slack or you're able to hold your tongue a little bit more and just kind of holds back. And so I just noticed that I would wake up like fuming, like just mad. And then it would sort of manifest into sort of these, you know, waves. So I'd be really mad, and I remember distinctly one day, I woke up mad, and then I kind of went through the day and I was like, I know I'm mad. It's a hormonal thing. There's nothing that's bothering me. And I remember heating up leftovers, and it was like chicken and rice from this this chain called Osmo's here in Toronto. And the leftovers were so good, like it tasted so good, that I started crying. And I know, and right then I knew, I was like, okay, this is like the epitome of pregnancy hormones, because there's no reason why I should be crying over this, but it was just, it tasted so good, because they have this, like, it's almost like halal, guys, where they have like this special sauce that they put over the rice, and it's just, it was so good. I cried, and I think that was one of the silliest things I've cried over since conceiving, is over chicken or rice that tasted really good. So now over to the 8 to 10 weeks. 8 to 10 weeks was sort of like a changing moment for me, because I feel like a lot went on. We were in the middle of COVID, so in terms of appointments and you know, choosing what route we were taking in terms of delivery, my husband and I did choose the midwife route, and they weren't admitting or seeing anyone until the 12-week mark. So the initial sort of like intake would have been at maybe 8 weeks, and then like the first initial like meeting and like full history would have been 12 weeks. They kind of smushed that together because of COVID, and so it was just one virtual appointment, I believe, when I was 10 weeks. But just before that, so I hadn't spoken to any doctor by then. I hadn't done anything because my doctor was not taking appointments, like non-urgent appointments, and their machine, like their appointment system was just like, you basically have to leave a message and then they'll call you back. Like, it was just like a whole confusion thing. And me and my, I don't know, just scattered brain, I was like, okay, I'll just wait for a midwife appointment for all the different tests. And then my best friend had said, like, why don't you just call them for a requisition? Maybe they'll send you without having to go in for an appointment. And I was like, yeah, that's a really good point. So I ended up making an appointment, and then I think at like the 7-week mark, 8-week mark, and I had a phone appointment with a doctor, or my family doctor, mat leave substitute doctor, or the doctor that was covering for her. And she had asked, you know, how far along I was, and da-da-da. And so it was weird because I kind of felt like I was behind. And so she sent me all the paperwork for requisitions, and she said, you know, there's no point, just wait till you're 12 weeks to do the first ultrasound. And so like my body kind of freaked out. And so that leads me into my first symptom, physical symptom, is I got really bad stress-induced hives. I've had them before during a more tumultuous period in my life, but yeah, I literally broke out throughout my entire body, my legs, my arms, my back, and nothing would help. Well, Benadryl would help the itch, but it didn't make the hives subside. And so the only thing that made it subside and sort of like keep it at bay was Benadryl extra strength. And I don't know if you've ever taken that, but that knocks you out. So it was between getting knocked out and just feeling super loopy, or getting hives. And I finally figured out, I'm like, you know what, I think it's because I'm worried, you know, I worry about, you know, the possibility of a miscarriage, which is essentially a miscarriage that your body doesn't recognize, and so you're still carrying the symptoms, but you're actually not carrying a viable pregnancy in there, in your uterus. And so at my first midwife appointment, I told her this, and she's like, yeah, we'll send you for you know, an ultrasound, no problem, if that just kind of makes you feel better. But she did say Benadryl is fine to take if that's what's helping, and it's kind of been like, you know, around long enough that it's proven to be safe for pregnant folks, so, or pregnant women. So that was like the biggest. Another major development during the 8 to 10 week mark is I kind of not lost, but all of the other pregnancy symptoms, physical ones, sort of just dissipated. So the hunger pains that kind of went from 0 to 100, gone. The nausea that went with the hunger, gone. A little bit of breast tenderness that just, you know, lingered. But other than that, everything just kind of chilled out, and that freaked me out because, and so that, I think that's what also contributed to the hives, is you associate all of these symptoms because you hear them, right, over time. It's like vomiting, nausea, fatigue, all these things you associate with pregnancy, and as soon as you don't feel it anymore or don't experience them, you're like, okay, what's wrong? Am I not pregnant anymore? What's going on? And as a first-time mom, I was just kind of all over the place. I was not sure what to feel. My midwife did reassure me a little bit, and again, reaching out to communities, I felt a little bit more reassured that it's fine. This is sometimes, like, you know, symptoms subside after a certain amount of time. Sometimes it's early for some, and sometimes it's later, and sometimes it just never subsides. So again, it's what was normal for me, was 8 to 9 weeks, like pretty much no symptoms other than you know, a belly that's just kind of growing in there, and the hive. And in terms of emotional changes during this point, I feel like as the pregnancy, it was more progressed, I started thinking about what our life would look like at this time next year, what my career would look like at this time next year. And we've always, my husband and I have always talked about, you know, wanting me to stay home for the year, to take that bonding year with our child, and to just kind of be there. But what did that mean for my career? We never talked about. And so I think all these questions started popping up, and I just started realizing the gravity of this momentous life experience. And so yeah, I just started thinking about that a little bit more, and, you know, started to internally process and just kind of envision what that life would look like that would work for us, and that would make, I mean, everybody happy. And as long as I think everyone is healthy, whatever we decide, it'll work out. So yeah, so that was the 8 to 10 week mark. Moving on to 11 to 12 weeks, which takes us just about the end of, I think, last week. So I'm filming this right now, and I think I'm exactly 13 weeks today. I have my app, Pregnancy Plus. I'm exactly 13 weeks today. So this is going off of what the ultrasound, so okay, sorry, rewind. In the 11 to 12 week mark, I did go for my initial blood test for a variety of vaccinations to check that it's still there, and then making sure that, you know, HIV, no STDs, no STIs, all of that kind of like foundational blood work was done, and everything came back good. Then I went for my first ultrasound, which was an interesting experience because I've never had one for a baby before, and she was just kind of silent the whole time. And I think I'd gone in at the 11 plus 4, so I was 11 weeks and 4 days. And so after 30 minutes of, you know, her poking around with the ultrasound device, and this was over the belly, it wasn't the internal one, and she asks me, you know, how far along are you? And I said, oh, I think I'm 11 weeks. And she's like, you're measuring a week later, so it looks like you're closer to like 12.5, 12.4, 12.5. And I'm like, okay, well, going off of my last, last month's period. And she's like, yeah, but our technology is more accurate. So I'm going off of that. So if we're going off of what the ultrasound technician said, today I am exactly 13 weeks. Yeah, in terms of physical changes in the last 2 weeks, my bloat is virtually gone. In terms of like when I'm eating, I don't feel bloat, but there's definitely a pooch down there now. Because I carry a lot of fat in my belly area, even at my like lowest weight, it's is not as rounded yet, and so it just looks like I gained weight in my belly. And yeah, so with the pregnancy and the bloat being gone, my belly is now the biggest at nighttime after like a day of meals, or when my bladder is full. So you'll see it's like visibly rounder than when like first thing in the morning. And the interesting thing is, a link at the 11 or the 12 week mark, I woke up one day and I put on my workout clothes, and then I looked in the mirror and I turned sideways, and it was like, it kind of looks like everything's just gone. So it's funny to see how your body changes over time, and how different symptoms and different physiological changes triggers different ways that your body looks. And so I just thought that was really cool and really funny that I thought I looked more pregnant, in my first 8 weeks than I did at 11 weeks. But I know it's just gonna get bigger and bigger from here, so I'm excited to see the changes. In terms of the emotional side of the 11 to 12 week mark, I think I was really bummed, especially after that first doctor. So I had 2 sets of kind of like appointments with medical professionals. I had ones with my family doctor and then ones with my midwife. And I think after the conversation with the family doctor, I felt like I was behind and that I hadn't done enough the amount of time that I was pregnant, because I was just like, my brain was just not processing how I would go in for an appointment. And with COVID, a lot of things change in terms of your care schedule. So because a lot of our medical facilities are trying to limit the amount of people coming through, what they'll often do is sort of smush together appointments. So if you're supposed to have like, I don't know, 12 appointments in your whole pregnancy, you're not gonna be down to like 8 or 7, and because they combine certain ones, or they'll do ones virtually and then like every other one in person. And so I feel like the first appointment I had with my doctor, she was kind of like, well, why'd you wait so long? And I was just like, I really don't know. Like, it didn't click in my head that I could just call in for a phone appointment and then like get the requisitions emailed to me. So I was feeling kind of bummed about that, and like, oh my gosh, this is like the first failure as a mom feeling I'm gonna get, and like the baby's not even here yet. So yeah, I was really bummed about that. In terms of other emotional changes, I felt like there was more, like I was more mentally clear-headed. Previous to pregnancy, I felt a lot of unfocus, and obviously we were in the middle of, a pandemic and in the middle of a lockdown during sort of like the dreary winter spring months. And so I think my mental health was just kind of on a lower point in my life, and so it was just really hard to focus, and it was just hard to be productive in a pandemic. And so compared to when the 11-12 week hit, which was, last week, 2 weeks ago, we're in the middle of summer, sun is shining, we're able to get out. And so I just felt a very big shift in the amount of mental clarity and focus I was able to have during work hours, but then also just I think more of like a enjoyment of life, because I was able to get out and I was able to sort of enjoy the outdoors. And there's lessening restrictions now because Toronto and adjacent areas are entering phase 2, phase 3. And so yeah, so there was just like a very sharp contrast between beginning of pandemic Han and like 11-12 week pregnant Han. And then finally, I think something that I want to share in that I started at the 11 week, I believe, mark is I started therapy again. I used to go to therapy for about 3 years, which ended in March because my therapist is retired now. But I think it helped a lot of, it helps me process a lot of just different things that I experienced in life, and it's made me such a better person because of it. And so I felt like I wanted to be ahead of the emotional, and sometimes I do, you know, like get like kind of like emotional spirals. So I wanted to get ahead of it, especially with hormones now in the mix, and a little bit more of uncertainty in terms of like the pandemic. And I do want to get ahead of the curve in terms of postpartum. I want to be able to be in the best mental state I can be in for the arrival of baby, and just, you know, entering into this brand new stage in my life, motherhood. It's gonna be one hell of a challenge, but I'm so excited for it, and I want to prepare myself. I mean, as much as you can, because I know there's nothing that can really, like, there's no book, there's no manual that can really prepare yourself for what's to come, because every child is different, every child has different needs, has different personalities, and so there's no way of predicting what that is going to be like. But I want to make sure that I have all the tools in my arsenal to help me sort of traverse this new stage in my life. And so I'll be meeting with her every 2 weeks to just, you know, get ahead of all the emotions, and, you know, have someone that's unbiased to help me process and not have to unload everything on my husband, who is already a man of very few words. So I just find that therapy for me has helped in so many different areas of my life in terms of self-esteem, navigating workplace, and just in all of my relationships. So I'm a huge supporter of mental health services and therapy if it is available to you. I know there's different options now, but yeah, I just thought I'd share that so that we, you know, as moms, remove the stigma of getting mental health support, especially in the middle of a pandemic, and with so many different, I think, parenting situations now. It's okay to have someone that is not biased and is not part of your, you know, sphere, to help you process through certain emotions and situations, and navigate that in the healthiest way possible. So yeah, I thought I'd share that. And I don't know, I'm really excited for it because I've been to 2 sessions so far, and it's just been really positive. So yeah, that's me. If you watched to this far, thank you so much for listening to my first trimester update. What shall we end up? A bump update, I guess. So I'll pop up some images of earlier on so you can kind of see like the contrast. But here is my 13-week, well, I guess it's 13 weeks, so you get a little bit of a sneak peek ahead. Belly bump. So yeah, you see a pooch. So from the front, like I mentioned, it's just kind of, it is like late afternoon now, and I'm about to eat dinner, so a little bit more, still a little bit jubby, but when I do this, it's like nothing happened. If you want to see more updates of my life and pregnancy during COVID, subscribe to this channel. I also make videos about UX design, product design, tech on my other channel, so if you're interested in that, feel free to visit that as well. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in 2 weeks. Bye bye.